Well, in amongst the hubris surrounding Westminster's draft energy price cap bill, the Scottish Government has set out its solution to fixing the so-called broken market.
The idea at its heart is simple. Energy would be bought wholesale or generated here in Scotland, renewable of course, and sold to customers as close to cost price as possible. No shareholders to worry about, no corporate bonuses to consider. It would give people, particularly those on low incomes, more choice and the option of a supplier whose only job is to secure the lowest price for consumers.
Well, that was Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon outlining her plans to create a state-owned not-for-profit energy company for Scotland. What that company will look like, well, we're not quite sure. We spoke to the Scottish Government, but they couldn't tell us. They did mention that more detail would be published by the end of the year as part of their energy strategy. What we do know is that the idea of a publicly owned energy company is not actually as out of the ordinary as it sounds. There are already a handful that exist across Great Britain. Phil Brennan is head of energy at the Association for Public Service Excellence and advises councils who want to set up municipal energy schemes. He joins us on the line from Salford. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Adam.
Could you just briefly explain who are these municipal suppliers? How briefly do they work?
Well, I suppose there's three groups really to look at. The first is those that have been established for a number of years. For example, there's an organisation called Enviro Energy run by Nottingham City Council, which has been going since 1972, providing heat and hot water to thousands of people in that area, and similar schemes in Aberdeen, Southampton, Woking, all owned by the local authority. So they are established models that have been running for a number of years. The most recent and high profile are energy supply companies, Robin Hood Energy, for example, Bristol Energy, and they are solely owned companies by the council.
Right. And sorry, I also think there is a distinction, isn't there, between those companies being set up who basically just resell energy and those companies which actually generate it as well.
Well, of course, the council often has assets to generate itself. So they may have a field with solar panels in, for example, and use that energy that's generated to supply, which is part of the supply to their customers.
And are they generally cheaper than is otherwise available?
Well, Robin Hood, if you look specifically at Robin Hood, they were set up to address fuel poverty in the East Midlands. And
do they do it?
Well, their prepayment tariff at the time they were set up was the highest in the country. A couple of years after being set up and established, it's one of the lowest, because they targeted that particular topic, fuel poverty, of course.
OK. Phil Brennan from the Association for Public Service Excellence, do you think these sorts of models are sustainable in the long term?
Well, I think looking at the models that have been up and running for many years, decades, the ones I mentioned before in Nottingham, in Aberdeen, in Woking, have shown that they run as any commercial business would run. They've got a business plan and customer targets, and they're audited and all the usual things that will go on there. They're a little bit different, as has been mentioned, because of the social purpose, but they've been running, as I say, for decades. The two most recent entrants, Robin Hood Energy and Bristol Energy, they're meeting their targets, so they are successful in this, market.
Yes, except you say that. I mean, I think Robin Hood Energy, an example you raised, had to increase prices by, was it 17% last March? So even these types of suppliers are not immune to rising wholesale prices.
No, they are part of the market, of course, and they are affected by every influence of that market. I think in terms of Robin Hood, as I said, they were looking at fuel poverty specifically, and at that time, none of their prepayment meter tariffs were increased. So they're able to focus what they're doing.